appreciate your commitment to renewable energy. I probably didn't help today when I rode over in a 20-car motorcade.
It's the end of the world as we know it. I feel fine.
Good morning, slaves, and welcome to another edition of It's the End of the World as We Know It and I Feel Fine, the show where we sound like a broken record. I am your host, the Stimulator, and yes, you know what comes next. And with oil topping $63 a barrel this week, the price of a barrel of oil topped 71 big ones this week. The price of crude oil hit a record $78 a barrel. A barrel of sweet crude hit 80 big ones, and the price of crude hit an all-time record of $90, 98 smackers a barrel, $99 a barrel, to $100 a barrel. The price of oil hit its highest record yet, only 3 cents shy of $106 a barrel. But capitalist cheerleaders said the price had to be raised in order to compensate for a weak dollar. Well, guess what? If you live in the US, a dollar is still a dollar. This comes just day after Captain Fuckface opened his gaping hole.
It should be obvious to all that the demand is outstripping supply, which causes prices to go up.
That was you-know-who at the Washington International Renewable Energy Conference. This is interesting being that just the previous week he opened his pie hole and said this.
What's your advice to the average American who is hurting now, facing the prospect of $4 a gallon gasoline, a lot of people facing...
Wait, what did you just say? You're predicting $4 a gallon gasoline?
A number of analysts are predicting $4 a gallon gasoline this spring when they reformulate.
That's interesting. I hadn't heard that.
Is it really so surprising to pay $4 a gallon this year? Why, Canadians have been paying close to that for some time now, and the UK pays about $6 a gallon. I don't really think Americans will make the fundamental changes in their lifestyle until it's about $10 at the pump. I can't fucking wait. Speaking of Canada, the Liberal Party in British Columbia passed the first carbon tax in North America. Here's BC Finance Minister Carol Taylor.
It's intended to be a long-term initiative. We felt very strongly that to bring in something like a carbon tax, which has been controversial and most governments have stayed away from it, we would have to do it in a way that people could accept.
What people can accept is a hike in gasoline prices for individuals, and big businesses are pretty much off the hook. But just so that residents shut the fuck up, the government is cutting them checks for $100 this summer, just in time for the price hike. That should cover about a week's worth of driving.
The more you drive, the less intelligent you are.
But since environmental protections were thin on BC's budget, brave citizens are taking matters into their own hands. Following up on a story from the last episode, forest defenders in Vancouver Island were swarmed by paid counter-protesters made mostly of forest workers, i.e. tree cutters. These poor ignorant bastards insulted protesters and destroyed their banners while displaying their smart wit and their own protest signs. And guess what? The motherfucking popo was nowhere in sight. Coincidence? Kicking it up a notch, in a Seattle suburb, the Earth Liberation Front set fire to 3 yuppie McMansions that were still under construction. The homes were built near a creek, which is the habitat to an endangered species of salmon. No one was hurt in the fire. And up in the ante, a bomb exploded at a high-profile army recruiting facility in Times Square in the NYC. The explosive device was allegedly thrown by a person riding a bicycle. For folks thinking of joining the army, my guess is that this would be a nice preview of what life would be like in Baghdad. Every so often I get to meet one of my heroes, but just because I admire them doesn't mean I am going to agree with every fucking thing they say. A few months back, I got to hear Professor Bob McChesney speak. If you don't know about Professor McChesney, he is a motherfucking ninja of the independent media movement, which is why I was so surprised by his answer to one of my questions. I asked him what he thought about people in the movement signing publishing contracts with mega media conglomerates.
And I've never been offered a contract by a mega corporation, so I don't have any ethical dilemma there. But I think, you take someone like Naomi Klein, who has a new book out called The Shock Doctrine. Should she have published that with a publisher that would have had trouble getting that in any bookstores or reviews and have no one, if much you receive a book, but it would be the best book in the history of that small publisher and they'd make a lot of money off it. It would sell 10 or 20,000 or 30,000 copies, maybe 40,000 at the outside. Or should she publish it with whoever a publisher is? It's a commercial house, I think. Metropolitan? I'm not sure. Random House, okay. And maybe have 500,000 people read it. Well, I'll tell you, politically, I'm glad it's with the Random House. Because I think the more people read that book and are exposed to it, the better.
Well, Prof, I respectfully disagree. First off, non-commercial independent publishers have produced big bestsellers. Don't Think of an Elephant, released by indie publisher Chelsea Green, sold 250,000 copies. To say that indie publishers can't do it is a defeatist attitude, and one that plagues our movement. By signing with mega media companies, and this includes musicians, authors, filmmakers, and the like, they are in essence giving the enemy we are trying to fight more money and therefore giving them more resources to spread their warmongering message. It's like adding more fuel to a train that you are trying to stop. It does not make a lick of sense. Case in point is that sellout Michael Moore. Moore signed a book deal first with Regan Books HarperCollins, i.e. Rupert Murdoch, owner of Fox News and the Wall Street Journal. And then he sold his soul to AOL Time Warner, and then he finally gave it up to Viacom, aka MTV. Even though I can't stand this motherfucker, he does have some important things to say. It is true that Moore has been able to reach millions using the corporate machine, but he has also made them buckets of money. But what happens when they don't like what you have to say? You see, Moore was about to drop his much anticipated film Fahrenheit 9/11 in 2004. The year Bush was running for his re-election, and Walt Disney pulled the plug on his distribution at the very last minute. People speculated that Disney did this under pressure from Florida Governor Jeb Bush. You know, douchebag's brother. My point is that if Michael Moore or others write things that the corporate bastards find threatening, do you really think they'll get published? And even if they are published, do you think their owners will go to bat to them when the heat is on? Just Google Fortunate Son and read up on why St. Martin's Press withdrew the book from publication. I'll close with this. Over 10 years ago, Amy Goodman and several hardcore indie media makers started the news program Democracy Now! In the NYC, first as a radio show and now as a TV show. Democracy Now! Is currently broadcast in over 600 stations worldwide. This was done by a massive grassroots campaign that involved hundreds of volunteers. They bypassed the corporate TV giants and used indie radio and TV stations, public access channels, and the internet, and have reached millions. If Amy and company could do this for radio and TV, who's to say it can't be done for publishing, or film, or anything else? And that about does it for this edition of It's the End of the World as We Know It and I Feel Fine. If you want to hear Bob McChesney's entire talk or on tips on supporting independent media, visit our website, stimulator.tv. And I'm off like a prom dress.
Remember, kids, you can podcast high-quality video of this show at submedia.tv.
I do my best thinking on the bus. That's how come I don't drive, see?
You don't even know how to drive.